Anybody with a $20 phone can do it. Right?
Very true.
Can do it. And that's what we need to encourage.
Yeah. So also, again, on building the tech ecosystem, of course, resources are needed. But we see the people who have resources in Africa, most of them want to invest in brick and mortar, without forgetting that tech actually propels that to something different or in the next level kind of even industry that we want to build. But very few people believe that you can write code and it will create wealth, enormous wealth that you can, it will actually scale. Because if you have industry, for you to scale industry, it takes a lot of capital to set up different places, to hire different people. But with the technology, then that actually becomes a reality. And I'll give you an example. Since he's an African, though he's doing it in US, our friend Elon Musk, you see how he scaled Tesla to China. Within months, he had set up, things were running, cars were produced, and actually sorted the problem that he had in Nevada or some place that he set up the plant. So how do we get there? Because now the young guys here, they are skilled, they have the right skills to do this, but the people with the good money to put in as capital, they don't believe in that. Like, honestly speaking, like here, people believe in buying a few shambas here and there than, investing in their sons and daughters to build solutions.
Yeah. Maybe it had to take Elon Musk go to an environment where it was okay, right, to do what he did and to build on the ideas he had.
Yeah.
For him to become Elon.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe if he remained, I don't know. I mean, I know there are big South African tech companies as well, right?
Yeah.
They're there, right?
Yeah.
But could he have gone to the scale of which he's gone to? I kind of beg to differ.
Yeah.
I think environment had to play a big role. That
Sure.
It took him being in the US in an ecosystem where people understand that it will be okay. You see, in Kenya, for example, or in Africa, if Elon was here and he said that he's living on pizza, that he can't pay rent. MK, you're going to look at this gentleman and say, you're crazy. But this is someone who said, you know what, I'm going to take all the money I have and put it into these ventures. And it's okay if I don't know where rent is coming from.
Yeah.
And it's okay if I'm going to live on pizza the whole week and Coke.
Yeah.
Right? And Coca-Cola, sorry.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly, right? That it's okay.
Yeah.
Here, you'll think he's crazy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
and you will look down on him and say, this guy is doing poorly. This guy is doing poorly. Right? So our societies as well need to come of age to understand what really is living and to be aspirational about something really great.
Yes.
So environment, I think, plays a big role. But then it's also very risky still here. Right? Why is it risky? Our own financial institutions don't understand that model. In the US, they've done it for 30, 40 years. They understand it very well.
True. Yeah.
So how do you get money to get this thing moving? Right?
Yeah.
Before you come to family, funds, and friends, right? You got to have infrastructure that is set up to do it properly.
Yes.
Before you say, okay, I'm going to rely on family, fund, and friends and myself to invest in all that.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure we have from our financial institutions have not come to understand that level of risk, right? That I can say, I will invest in 10 and it's okay if 8 don't make it.
Yeah.
But these 2 that might make it might cover for all the other 8.
Yes.
Whereas we don't believe in that yet, right? From our financial institutions yet. So that is a no-go.
Yeah.
So society, a challenge. Our financial infrastructure needs a little bit of moving a little, thinking ahead as well. Now you come to an individual with your own capital. Now, what are you going to do?
Of course, even worse.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think that's where the problem is fundamentally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's something you mentioned there, passing, and I think this is something I consider very important because any individual is made of 3 things, body, mind, and soul. How much did that contribute to what you know, and how much can that contribute to our future as Africans? Because we are spiritual beings in one way or the other. And we have a body to keep healthy. And our mind has to be nourished time to time. So what is your perspective to Africans who want to build the next generation of wealth?
in my opinion, some water.
Sure.
In my opinion, maybe it helps that I was a doctor once. Well,
You're no longer a doctor?
like a teacher, you're always a teacher, right? So maybe it helps,
Yeah.
but
Doctor of philosophy.
medical.
Okay.
So it does help in terms of understanding what is this thing that we move around when called flesh and bones. Right? It puts a very different perspective. In terms of how feeble life really is. Right? It's very, very feeble.
Yeah.
Very fleeting. And what I see you as MK, this is a container.
Yeah.
In my opinion. That's why I look at it.
True.
Right? It is not you.
Yeah.
Right? It's not you. It's just a container that has to carry, right, your soul around.
Yes.
That's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
Right? It has to carry it around. And therefore you have to feed it like a car. Right? Make sure it can run. Right? It can wake up. It can go. It can move. It can move around. It's nothing other than just physical self. The mental, whatever, is how you compute everything else to make things happen for your soul.
Yeah.
Just computing power.
Yeah.
Your mental. Right? So that my IT aspect comes into that. Right? That my brain is just a computing, it's nothing other than a CPU.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? And how do I make sure this CPU is always what it needs to be? So it can direct two things. Number one, keep the physical on what it needs to do, right? And make sure that it's meeting the aspirationals of the soul. And when you separate those three like that, life becomes very simple, right? It becomes like now you're Elon Musk. I figure out, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What do I need a $5-10 million house for? What do I need it for?
Yeah. I'm just
where is it going? Where is it going? Does my physical self need that? It doesn't. Right? Yeah. His mental capability will say, not useful. His CPU computes that say not useful. I'd rather stay in a container, sell all those houses like he did sell the last couple of years. Literally almost no house now he's got. Stays in friends' houses when he goes to California, for example. And he's one of the world's richest people. That's a whole different level of mental compute.
Yeah.
But which is meeting his aspirational for his soul. Right? In terms of what does his soul want to achieve for humankind. That is what now really matters. Now, I think as Africa, if we look at things that way, there are things that we will not be doing. The way we accumulate wealth in crazy fashion that contributes nothing to humanity.
Yeah.
Completely.
It takes away from the humanity.
We are one of the worst continents when it comes to giving back once you're wealthy. People give back before they get money. Real money. Right? Because I think they're trying to pay whatever to God, so God can. But after that, you don't hear much about what foundations do. You don't hear much. We are one of the worst. There's a few folks who are doing the right stuff, but let's look at it at scale of what people do. Right now, Kenya is having one of the worst droughts ever. How many wealthy people in Kenya that will contribute even an amount that actually they should be paying as tax to KRA, but they're not doing it. They're not doing it. They're still holding it.
Yeah.
They will literally write it off. They will write $1 million, $10 million like it's tax money. KRA will just get less of it. It's not, doesn't come from them. But their mentality is not there. So I think at some point, we need to get to the point of understanding these three trinities, if you call it that. Yeah. Right? In terms of what really matters. Yeah. Right? And what our brains is telling the rest to do. Right? That we can really meet the aspirations of our soul.
True. Yeah. I mean, you have really broken it down very nicely. And, in any ecosystem, without policy, it's really hard to get things done because, of course, there's they call him in US, they call him in US. I remember that name. With the guy who collects the tax and makes sure that everyone is about.
IRS?
No, not the name of the organization, but there's a nickname that they use that I've just forgotten right now. But nevertheless, you need that guidance in terms of governmental, compliance and all that. And I see you have influenced a couple of couple of policies here from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Bribery Act 2016, there's Kenya e-health policy, Ministry of Health, between 2008 and 2010. And most of these things actually looks like even the government of the day, if my mind serves me well, it was more open to change. And right now where we are, I don't feel like even the new government is open to change. You can correct me if I'm wrong. They are open to trying to fix things because there's so many things broken. How can we, because now in the next 21 years we'll count on that either way. How can we play a part in ensuring that even the policies that are made is not just to fix, but also to contribute into this tech ecosystem? Because either way, if we fix the tech ecosystem, if we fix our industries, if we fix the revenue, if we fix people's businesses, then everything else, we don't need to fix anything, everything else will fall into place.
I don't know about governments, sorry, but sometimes
how are you able to influence all these policies?
I'm coming to the RMK, right? So sometimes we look at government as that thing, but the government is us.
For sure.
Government is you and me, right? These are our friends. So I can't start telling you guys, no, they are our guys, right?
You can have a conversation.
It's our friends. We have discussed. We say this is what we need to do. I think this bribery thing has gone too far. Let's have some playing field, right? That also the private sector, right, needs to do what? Be governed, that you don't just, because in a bribery environment there's a give and a taker, isn't it? So it was just, let's level the playing field. You can't take the guy in public service to court, but the guy in private, you left him hanging. So let's level the playing field, right? Because then you solve that menace. And many others like that, because these are friends. We sit down in a meeting and discuss in our boardroom and say, okay, have this commission, and we go do it and return on the results. So they're human beings like us. But I would say nation states don't look at 5 years, 10 years. It's hundreds of years. And I think that's what we need to internalize. That it's not what you see tomorrow. It's what are the steps that put into play in the next 20, 50, 100, 200 years. We're where we need to be. Right? Wherever we need to be. Egyptian dynasty lasted thousands of years. It didn't start on the 5th year and they said we must build this pyramid, and if you didn't build it, all of you go home. I don't think so. Right? Rome as an empire didn't begin by, it's this 5 years, and if we don't do this, Caesar, you're going, no. These things take a lot of time, because humanity has been around for quite a bit, and it will continue to be there for quite a bit. So I think we need to look at that context. So the question is, what are we doing that is always inching us in that right direction? If you look at even what the president has mentioned the last 1 month, I believe, are the importance of technology into that. I think it's amazing. Look at the current cabinet and what they've been saying. I know it looks like a lot of talk, but it's talking the right direction. It's talking the right direction.
There's what influences that mindset.
But it's talking the right direction, that we can do this with the textile industry, right? And saying, practically we'll do this. It's in the right direction. What we need to do is to now play our part together with our colleagues, because they're our colleagues. They're not some aliens who fell there, they're now in government. They're our colleagues. We play our role to support that and move it. We can't be throwing stones across that fence. It's the same football pitch. Some guys are spectators, some guys are playing. Next time, it will be us guys in the playing field, then they're back to spectators. You have to play your role. Everybody has to play their role. And together, both private and public. If you take a couple of hundreds of years back, maybe 1840s, 50s, to the men who built, mostly that's how the book was written, who built America. It was private folks, industrialists, coming together and saying, with the government, this is what we're going to do.
Also, they bailed the government out at some point.
They bailed government out. They did it. Right? They didn't sit and say, you government, and they kept on throwing stones. They said, no, we are industrialists. Carnegie, you hold steel. Morgan, you hold finance. You hold this. Everybody held their part, and they held it without taking prisoners, like I said. Right? Without taking prisoners on it. They held it. Right? And they delivered. the America as we know it today.
Yeah.
If you take steps back even then, America was in such a worse off position than Europe. Very much worse off. They had just come from civil war. They had hunger issues like you won't believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It took them less than 5 to 10 years. And the UK could not believe where these guys came from. On almost every aspect.
Yeah.
Right? But it didn't come out of these guys throwing stones.
Yeah.
It came out of these guys saying, me in private, this is my role.
We are committed.
Right? You, government, this is your role. But together, we are on this journey.
Yeah.
And we
need to move.
We move.
Yeah.
Right? And they moved.
Yeah.
And that is what put the America where it is right now as a superpower. If you told them in 1840 there'll be a superpower, they'll look at you like you. They had just come from putting all these states together. There's still some wars down in the south or wherever it is. Guys are still dying of hunger and places you can't believe.
Yeah.
They can't amount any serious war like the Britain or France or Italy or Spain could do. They literally have almost very few inventions that could scale the planet. So I think if you look at the Kenyan government the same way, or African governments the same way, and say, thank you very much. You got this policy, kind of, you have an idea, right? Minister for Trade, you have an idea. Perfect. Now, this is my role, right? And I'll take no prisoners in achieving that, right? And execute your side, I execute my side.
True. Then things get done. So the name that I was looking for is Uncle Sam.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You found it.
Yeah. So,
right.
And even talking about the policy, I think, do you think we overtaxing young guys or young companies for them to even thrive, or?
My opinion, that's a chicken and egg situation, right?
Yeah.
Because you need, as any nation, tax is not new.
Yes.
Tax have been there for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Let's not look at tax as something that is, oh goodness.
Yeah.
My God, what do you do? Tax is a way that you form a society that can function. Right? We must have roads, we must have schools. So it's how you form a society. Society has got rules. Then we have how we administer the rules. So that we have a code of how we live as a society. Then we need to finance it to make sure that it works.
Yes.
Because it can't work without being financed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then there's some things that is just best done at scale. Each of you can't build a road for yourself to your village.
Yes.
Right? You'd rather just say, I'll contribute 1,000 bob, and all of us, 10 million of us do the same, and now we have a road.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the things that are best done collectively, right? As a nation. So tax is not new. I think the challenge for us is a mentality issue, but also there's a technology issue, right? Or access issue. Let me call it access.
Yes.
Mentality issue. We need to move also from this thing of I don't want to give. Right? I don't want to give.
Yeah.
I just want to take. I'm a taker, but I don't want to give. Right? So we kind of have to switch our minds to, it's okay to give.
Yeah.
Like I said,
even for you to take, you have to take from something.
Like I said, even it doesn't matter how much money you have, how low you have. We are more we gear ourselves to more towards, taking than giving. Even if giving is 10 shillings, I still don't want to give that 10 shillings.
So the conversation should be like, how much should we tax our startup as opposed to like, should we give them a tax break?
But what really is a tax break, so to speak, right? If I said you're a startup and maybe I find a way that aligns with your revenue model so that I'm not running you out of town.
Yes.
But you're contributing your bit. Right? Because if you don't build, and this is also, when I sit in boards or I mentor, startups, there's something, if you don't build some cost structures earlier on, it's very difficult 2-3 years later to start introducing them.
Yes.
In your business model.
Yeah.
Right? So if you didn't build a way that says, I will be contributing 5 to 10% into R&D or whatever it is, then you can't wake up in the 5th year and start doing it.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can say, for the next 3 years, you pay 0 tax and somehow you're going to find a way for your business model on the 3.5 year that you're okay to pay tax. I think even if I'm paying 1 shilling, right? 0.0001% from day one.
Be accounted
Let me start doing it. Right?
Yeah.
But in a way that it doesn't do what? Drive me out of business.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't run me out of town. So you don't say, okay, fine, maybe I don't pay the 30%, right, of top line if I really have nothing. But guess what? Maybe I pay 1%. Maybe I pay something. So I've already built it in. And I would structure my model that as I grow, this thing is also growing. Because now I'm building that mentality in my business to giving. Because 3-5 years down the line, if you didn't build that into your structure, those startups will be the first ones to go to tax havens because they have not built that mentality. And then as a nation, we don't have enough people being taxed, and then you start taxing the few. Right? I think it's everybody can pay something. The question is, how do you make sure it doesn't run you out of town? Right? And just build it into the business model. Yeah. Even if you're a Juakali person, right? I'm in Juakali. I am paying whatever it is I pay. If let's say I make those boarding school suitcases, right? I'm selling it for 250. Right? Out of the 250, 10 shillings is going to, or 5 shillings. You get? The day I am now making 100,000 of them, it's just 5 shillings times 100,000 of them.
So there's scale also in that.
There's scale. But at least the government is taking that 5 shillings and making sure that they build certain infrastructure that can enable me to scale. Right? Because maybe I need good roads. Maybe I need good banks that can give me loans. Maybe I need this, maybe so that I can reach that 100,000 units. But if I never do all those things, the government never have that kind of cash to build for me that super highway infrastructure from our funding, from our access to good materials, from somebody else saying, okay, I think I can set up a steel factory for you guys, whatever it is, so that I can reach my 100,000 units. So you'll never reach it.
And actually, the way you're putting it, there are two things that are coming out of this. One is that I feel like there's not enough education for, even the businesses on how tax would actually contribute to their growth or to create that environment they're looking at. Number two, the reality on the ground is that we build everything on loans, which again, they're not well spent, to be honest, to be fair to everyone. So maybe we have 100% of the loan, maybe 50% goes to specific people and not the development. And even that 50% is mismanaged to an extent that what we get at the end, if we're not careful, is not really quality. It's not worth the money that was invested. So in either way, and I don't want to put you on the spot, maybe you can bring your multinational knowledge in managing resources, ensuring that there's development and visible kind of development that people could actually be glad to pay even 50% of their tax of their earning to tax because they can see it like other people do out there. How do we hold people accountable to an extent that we're able to pay tax gladly?
Yeah, I think that's where technology comes in, right? And that's what I meant by the access part. I think I mentioned something about access. Just pure good old access, right? Is something that can be improved markedly with technology. Not just access to capital, because right now you can put your pitch and you can raise funds whether it's on GoFundMe or whatever it is. Even someone can send you money without ever seeing that person. 20 years ago, that was unheard of. I can tell you for free. Unheard of.
Even there was no mechanism to do that.
Unheard of. Right now you can do it. Right? So not just access to funding, but also access to transparency as well. How is that working at an individual level for companies that either I'm in the board of or startups? Is that I could be investing in this startup that I've never seen. But because of technology and transparency of me seeing what's going on, I can invest.
Yes.
You get? The same thing applies to governments as well. Technology allows us to be able to see what the government is doing. There's so many things that 20 years ago were very opaque.
Right
now they're not opaque. Right now they're not opaque. I know people still we could go far, but there are many things right now government can't just do. It's in the open, right? And that's because of technology.
People are well informed.
People are well informed. That's because of technology, right? They're well informed. And if before you know it, someone has leaked it on Twitter, right? Someone has leaked this before. I mean, you could never leak anything anywhere. In a bar maybe. I don't know. Where are you going to leak it to?
And the scale is not there.
There's no scale of leaking it. Right now, everybody's watching, anybody can leak anything, right? So technology can really help in transparency, not just from a journalistic perspective, but I'm talking about from an infrastructure of how government is run, right? Whether it's from a tax, from a resources, whatever it is, how it's run. But also it's in how capital is applied. Because globally, what I have learned is capital is applied in a leverage manner. It's not applied in, I'm talking from a huge capital, nation states level, or even large companies.
Yeah.
It's not taken like I have borrowed $1 million and I'm going to spend $1 million.
Yes.
Mostly, wealth is created with leverage. Right?
Yes.
In terms of saying, I've got $1 million. I'm going to put it here. It's going to be leverage for 10 other people with their $1 million to come in. And now I have 10. My one is still intact. Get it's leverage.
Yeah.
And that's how wealth is created, because wealth, right from before, when we moved from gold standard in the late 70s in the US, is now digital wealth.
Yes. Do you think that was the right move that now you've mentioned it?
The gold standard? No. Let me stay to my lane, right?
It's debatable.
From a technology, right? Let me stay to my lane.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, if we could debate, but I would rather, as a nation, we create the wealth than debate after.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I hear you.
Debate from a higher ground than
yes.
debate, but you're sticking in poverty. If we all know it is digital wealth that is moved to leverage, right? And therefore, we need to create our wealth of leverage, right? Not on your hard resource. I've got this amount of gold, this amount of uranium, this amount of this, and therefore that is my wealth. And therefore, question is, my GDP is based on exactly that.
Yeah.
It needs to be, how can I leverage on that and create what I call new digits, right? That creates phenomenal wealth on top of it. That is literally not even paper money.
Yeah.
It is digital money.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's, I think, is fundamentally from a state or from a government that if we get right, I'll call the sky is not even the limit. Because the resource base in Africa is huge. If that was to be used, not as this is the measure of GDP in terms of the jobs I create off it, but how do I use that as leverage, creating digital wealth, right? That exists as ones and zeros, right? In my national coffers, in my banks, in my new businesses being created. If I'm investing in your company, MK, I'm investing ones and zeros. True or not?
True.
I'm not I didn't hold a suitcase of money. It's ones and zeros.
Yes.
Those ones and zeros came from where? From another place with ones and zeros. With another ones and zeros. With another ones and zeros. That's it.
Yeah.
And that capability is what we need to enhance more. Yeah.
And also it will bring the accountability part of things.
Exactly.
Now, very interesting conversation we're having here because we almost coming to an end.
Indeed, I'm looking at the time too.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. But, I love how you plan your life. Like you started with 15 years, now you're on 25. And there's Vision 2030.
Okay, for Kenya.
For Kenya, that is.
Great.
Of course,
I look at it from an Africa perspective. Vision 2030. Other countries also have Vision 2030 and 35.
The Africa's Vision 2060.
There are many countries that have their. Every country literally has their own Vision 2030.
But Africa has Vision 2060.
Yes, but if you look at nation states, there's some also that have 2030 and 2035. Exactly.
I see.
So you mean the Kenyan one?
We are in Kenya.
All right,
so
great.
let's take that as a context, and then maybe whoever is listening across the continent, they can borrow one or two things. And I feel, to be fair, we have not done it justice. And I feel like we are struggling to implement what we can, as opposed to if it was implemented really well, we'll not be struggling. We're in 2022; it's just 8 years away. What do you think that will contribute to even the tech ecosystem? What you're trying to achieve? Because at the end of the day, all of us operate in an environment, and the environment here has a vision, and we have maybe our vision. Do you see how maybe even your vision tallies with these other vision?
I think, in my opinion, 2030 was very noble when President Kibaki, the late, God bless his soul, started off.
Yeah, I agree.
And the thing is, it was more, at least at that point, the way I viewed it, right? Even when I read the documents, it was more what government is going to do. Right? There's a lot about government. There could be some private sector, this, but it was heavy about what government shall do to achieve these things.
So it was about the government.
In my opinion, it should have been flipped the other way around. 80% private, 20% government. For the government to be an enabler.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's no need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has been done.
Yeah.
And the wheel of how you create sovereign wealth
Yeah.
is known. Right? Hundreds of years of history tell us exactly
There's the model.
it is done by private individuals, companies and individuals, not by government. That is what works.
Yeah.
In my opinion, 2030 is how many years to go? 8 years to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be
Actually,
done,
less than 8.
it can be done in 5. You don't need 8 years. It can be done in 5.
All that.
Can be done in 5. Can be done in 5. And I believe President Ruto is on the right path. We talk about Kenya, right? He's on the right path. He's mentioned critically the role that PPP, private-public partnership, will do in accelerating the growth we need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the way to go, not government.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Government does not know how to apply capital the best. It's private companies.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
Right? Government does not have a profit and loss statement. We'll have a balance sheet,
But no
which
P&L.
you can question, right? But it doesn't understand P&L. It lives off 1,000 years of a P&L or a balance sheet. So how are you going to hold them accountable to a quarter-on-quarter result, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But private companies do,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we can achieve what we need to do in those 8 years with the learnings of what has happened before
Yeah.
and apply, in Kenya, specifically to Vision 2030, but then use the models that are worked, private sector plays a role. Look at even China. Government played a big hand, but who built all those other companies?
Private companies.
Private. Even if government says, I'll invest,
Yeah.
but they came as an investor.
Yeah.
They sit on their board.
Yes. Yes.
But
like everyone else.
day to day, this thing is being led military style by private companies as private companies. Right? So I think it's the ability to be able to get that.
Yeah.
And I think President Ruto, as far as Kenya goes, is on the right thinking. But then it will not be him to do it.
Yeah.
Not his ministers. If MK, you and me refuse to form those companies or realign our companies or put capital in the right way, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's very good nuggets we have there. And I think our listeners are learning a lot from your experiences and even your journey in how maybe this culminated to what you are today. But as we part short, we would like to hear now, like a parting shot coming from Dr. Himself, Gilbert Saggia, on our viewers and listeners.
I think this parting shot is a Kenyan thing.
Yes, we are Kenyans.
I'm like, parting shots.
We normally say goodbye. We never leave just like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
so thank you for having me.
Yes.
So
yes.
the way I'll put it is that we have our roles to play.
Yeah.
And everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
And there is no journey that is better than. We are all humans on this race. We're on the same boat.
Yeah.
We're all in the same direction. But whatever you do, make sure you're passionate about it. It's very, very tough when you as a person with 90, 100 or whatever years to live.
Yeah.
If you're doing something that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
So I think it's, choosing a path that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And making sure it counts.
Yeah.
Right. That when you leave the stage,
Yeah.
it's more people than your relatives are clapping.
Yeah. There's one controversial thing that I'll ask. That,
Yes, please.
I think I'm curious about. This is personal, right?
Right.
I heard you were charged. What does that mean? At Lenana School.
That I was a what?
A charge.
What does a charge mean?
I don't know.
I'm not too sure what he means by that. Are you talking to what Teddy mentioned that a charge?
Yes.
Teddy, do you want to talk about these charges? Because I have no idea.
Yes. So in charge of. That's what you guys called a charge. So. Ah. Nice. Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay. Nice, 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 nice. Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah. Ah. Okay, our listeners didn't hear all that, so I have to repeat some of it. So, being a charge from Lenana means you go to achieve the greatest in the world. And Dr. Saggia, Teddy Wari, amongst many and many other guests, maybe we'll have here, and some already we have talked to. They are committed to changing the world, and I think Lenana has molded you guys to really be a good example in the world in how to change the world. And of course, I don't give all the credit to Lenana. Of course, individually, some of you are the greatest guys that we have around. And it amazes me because everywhere I go in Africa, and even outside Africa, I've never met the smartest, most skilled, intelligent people more than Africans. And maybe my friends who are non-Africans know, they don't know this, but at the end of the day, maybe if you interact with more Africans, you realize this over time. And I feel the world is ours for the taking. I feel like we have more to do, especially in Africa, to ensure that we don't go through the same cycle of suffering, neglect, trauma, and all that. As we come to an end, I would like to thank you, Dr. Saggia, for gracing this show. Or podcast or vlog, whichever name you want to give it, is just having real, authentic African conversation, creating history, because our history actually is no here, no there, because we are not the one who are in charge of creating it. And it's an honor to have you. Thank you so much. Until next time, this is Michael Kimathi, or MK if you want. And this is Africa's Talking Podcast in collaboration with Impact Masters. And we had the Impact Master himself, Dr. Gilbert Saggia.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.